Does anyone find it really interesting that President Trump just signed an executive order on historically Black colleges and universities a few days after Target CEO, Walmart CEO, all these big CEOs of these corporations met with him at the White House? Because I don't think it's a coincidence at all. You can't tell me that President Trump is blackmailing all of these private institutions, taking money away from them and federal funding away from them, but then signed an executive order that says, I am supporting and believe in HBCUs, right? Now, the Black community knows this is the bedrock of our community, education-wise, right? When we could not go to traditional universities, this is where people were sending their children to get educated. But it's weird to me that he has an all-out assault on these Ivy League institutions, but then wants to support HBCUs. What this tells me is that the boycotts are working. This tells me the boycotts are working because these CEOs are scrambling. So the Target CEO goes to meet with the president, has a meeting with him, because we all know, if you watch my last video, I said, they are scrambling. They met with Al Sharpton. They met with Jamal Bryant. They are trying to figure out how to get us back into the stores. Do they think by passing an executive order that supports HBCUs, we're going to get back in the stores? Clearly, because that's what the president just did. But it's one of those things where I'm like, you guys have to remember our power. Keep doing the things that we are doing, because this is the result of it. They think that passing certain policy will get us to acquiesce and get us to be happy and say, okay, we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the places that, we feel we're not doing the right thing in the name of our communities and for the communities we care about. But it's just ironic. And again, if you've been watching my videos, I talk about shiny objects, another shiny object, because he'll talk about HBCUs and talk about supporting them, but at the same time deport us. But at the same time, call us criminals. But at the same time, not make sure that, Black and brown communities have DEI in the workplace. Oh, but all of a sudden HBCUs are important. Pay attention.
They say when someone gives with one hand and takes away with the other, you better look twice. That's exactly what's happening right now with Trump's new executive order on HBCUs. And Black Americans are speaking out. Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, welcome for the first time. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Amy, and this is Trending Pulse Worldwide, the place where we break down trending stories from the culture, raw and real, just how you like it. And today we're talking about a new executive order signed by Donald Trump that's making headlines. And at first glance, it seems like a win for HBCUs, but the details are stirring controversy, especially in the Black community. What's really going on? Let's take a look at the reactions first. Then I'll come back and we can have this discussion.
Folks, I'm really beginning to think that DJT may not exactly be all that he was hyped up to be. I was sold on the idea that I was getting a purebred, thorough, old school racist. You get what I'm saying? The type of racist where you didn't even have to question it. You didn't have to ask, is this guy really, is he really down? Or is he just, is he like racism light? Because here we have DJT in his second term circling back to take care of the HBCUs, the historically Black colleges. Now, not only has he signed an executive order that is going to make sure that the success of these HBCUs continues, but he actually has that order breaking down exact ways in which HBCUs will be expanded, they will continue to get funding, and they will continue to get taken care of.
Well, this ought to raise some eyebrows. So Trump just signed an executive order on Wednesday to promote excellence at HBCUs. But let's not act like this is the whole story. So I'm going to break it down to you real quick. So yes, this executive order sounds real good on paper. It brings this White House initiative on HBCUs directly under the executive office, creates a board of advisors, and encourages public-private partnerships to boost things like tech, healthcare, and finance training. Howard University, Morgan State, and Bowie State all gave it a thumbs up. They see it as a potential pipeline to funding, jobs, and research expansion. And they're not wrong. But here's where the side eye comes in. The order doesn't actually promise any new funding. And that whole strengthen capacity line, it's vague enough to mean anything or nothing. Even Trump's earlier wins, like the Future Act, were signed under pressure from Democrats and HBCU leaders. So let's not pretend he just woke up one day passionate about Black education. And by the way, the Future Act that was signed into law in 2019 was supposed to grant annual funding permanently for HBCUs, other MSIs, TCUs, and HSIs as well. And this is the same administration that's been gutting DEI programs, banning CRT, and calling diversity anti-American. So I guess they think that we're just gonna ignore that? Look, if Trump is really about HBCU excellence, then why cut the legs out from under every other diversity effort in the country?
The judge also temporarily blocked the Dollar Tree dictator administration's efforts to end DEI in public schools. Okay. Speaking of DEI, in this abusive relationship, we got love bombed by the Dollar Tree dictator also signing an executive order to support HBCUs. And it's just talk. It's all talk. There will be no actual support. Don't worry about that. Yeah, it's like when you're in an abusive relationship and then they come back with gifts, but then the gifts are either non-tangible or they're just efforts of doing better and you never do better.
So I heard that Donald Trump signed an executive order to start a White House initiative to assist HBCUs. And I thought, man, that's odd because everything that he's done thus far has seemed to indicate that he doesn't give a fuck about Black people. So I know that there must be some kind of catch. He's making it appear as though he's giving something when he's really taking something away. And it's all about just show, right? Just show. And I was like, oh, I cannot, I'm not going to be able to stand to hear MAGA people and black Republicans say, oh, well, look at what he did with this initiative with HBCUs. So I went and I read the initiative. And, the important part of this initiative that you need to read is that he revoked an executive order 14041, that was written by Joe Biden in 2021. I believe it was September 3rd of 2021. Now, what's the difference between the initiative that the executive order that Donald Trump signed versus the one that Joe Biden signed? Why did he feel like he needed to revoke that, right? Because he was going to give HBCUs more? No. So he basically is taking away any of the acknowledgement that Joe Biden had made with HBCUs and how Black folks basically have been treated unfairly, that they've come up been basically oppressed. I mean, I'm not using the right words, but basically in Biden's executive order, he was acknowledging the barriers that people of color have, and emphasized, interagency commitment to for employment, for more opportunities, for to push like in STEM and all. So it basically acknowledged that the United States has fucked over Black people for a long time, and therefore he's acknowledging it, and he's putting this initiative in place to try to combat it, to make it an even playing field. And Donald Trump's doesn't include any of that. So it basically keeps the things that Joe Biden put into place, but then takes away acknowledgments that there are barriers based upon our race. So anybody that's like, oh, Donald Trump signed an executive order, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything but take away any mention of the oppression, the obstacles that Black people face, or Black students would face, just because of basically, the racism and the history of the United States. So he took all of that away, and instead he wants to focus on merit-based success. So basically, more DEI.
So, on April 23rd, 2025, Donald Trump signed an executive order that set up a new White House initiative to support historically black colleges and universities. That includes creating a presidential advisory board, boosting retention, and increasing funding. Sounds good, right? But here's the catch. At the same time, another executive order known as Executive Order 14151 completely eliminates all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion (DI) programs. That includes programs that have directly benefited HBCUs and students of color. And because of this, the USDA suspended the 1890 Scholars Program, a scholarship initiative that supported students at 19 HBCUs. Rutgers even cancelled an HBCU-focused conference due to the new rules banning DI-related events. So while the headline sounds like Trump supports black colleges, the real-world impact says otherwise. And civil rights organizations like the NAACP, Legal Defense Funds, and the National Urban League are calling it out, and some are even taking legal action. And it's like dressing up a problem in shiny wrapping paper, but the moment you open it, you realize what's inside could do real harm. So guys, what do you think? Is this just politics as usual, or do you think there's a bigger strategy behind it? Let me know in the comments below. And keep it respectful as always, but like I say, don't hold back. And if you found this video informative, please like it, share it, and subscribe for more trending stories that matter to our communities. So until next time, stay aware, stay critical, and stay connected. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.